Imagine being a ghost for 10 years, a man the world thinks is long dead. But when you're the best assassin the government ever trained, you don't stay hidden forever. The story begins with a man named Mason living on a deserted island in Scotland. Who is this Mason? Our bald friend, a tough man who's about to turn things upside down. He lives on this island completely alone with his dog. No birds flying, no beasts roaming. Even food is scarce. His only supplies are brought once a week by an old man and his niece, Jessie. On this day, a week had passed since their last visit. Mason looked up and saw them at the edge of the island. He descended from the lighthouse and stood in a spot facing where they would stop. As they approached, the old man stayed on the main boat, and Jessie took a small rowboat to deliver the supplies. Since she had been doing this for a long time, she knew the routine by heart. She rowed until she reached land, headed to the spot where she usually left the food, placed the box there, and then left a small gift on top of it before heading back. From Mason's behavior, it's clear he doesn't want to see anyone. What happened to him? Why is he living alone? It's as if you don't know the bald guy. He probably messed something up somewhere and came here to hide. He waited until they were gone before coming out to take the box. He found the gift, set it on the ground without even checking what was inside, and took the supplies. He fed his dog and sat down to play chess against himself. His entire time was spent on three things: sleeping, playing chess, or watching the sea. Occasionally, he would wake up from his sleep in a state of pure terror, as if he were still haunted by something that happened in his past. Days passed, and the day for the next delivery arrived. Mason had stayed up all night, so he was fast asleep in the morning. He was suddenly startled by the sound of knocking on his door. Hearing a knock at the door made his blood run cold. He crept toward it and found Jessie. She had brought the box herself this time. Mason didn't welcome her at all. He told her, "This is the last time you ever come up here." He took the box and was about to slam the door, but she blocked it with her foot. "Look how long we've been bringing you water and food, and you've never even said thank you. You didn't even take the gift I left you," she shouted. Mason had heard enough. He stepped out and pushed her foot away with his own and slammed the door. Jessie was hurt by his words, but she left the gift by the door anyway and ran back to her uncle. But the weather suddenly turned. The sea became violent, the wind roared, and massive waves began tossing her uncle's ship into the sky and slamming it back down. Jessie tried to row back to him as fast as possible, but the waves were too strong. Her uncle tried to keep the ship steady, but it was no use. It capsized and began to sink. Even Jessie's small boat was overturned. Mason, watching from the window, saw the ship sinking and ran out like a madman. He entered his garage, pushed a hidden boat into the water, and sped toward them. He was always prepared with an escape plan. Jessie was trapped. Her leg was caught in a fishing net inside the sinking ship. She struggled to free herself but was being pulled down. Mason arrived, dived into the water, and reached her. He managed to free her leg and pulled her up. He saw the uncle dead inside the ship. He got her onto his boat, performed emergency first aid until she started breathing again, and took her back to the island. That night, as he stood by the window, she woke up. Her first question was about her uncle. He told her he was gone. She was devastated and spent the whole night crying. In the morning, Mason treated her leg and went out for a walk. Jessie crawled out of bed and looked through the window. She saw him walking and began searching the drawers, searching everywhere. She found a knife, took it, and ran back to her spot. When Mason returned, he saw her trembling and noticed things were out of place. He knew immediately what she had done. That night, he saw her having a nightmare. He sat next to her, and when he touched her, she pulled the knife and held it to his throat. Mason didn't even flinch. He calmly said, "That's not how you hold it," took it from her, showed her the correct way, and then gave it back to her to keep. From that day on, she began to trust him deeply, and he started treating her like a daughter. tending to her leg, cooking for her, and even carrying her to the bathroom. Slowly, she began to heal. As she stayed longer, she grew accustomed to the place. She began sitting by the door and playing with the dog. One evening, while Mason was playing chess, she asked him how he knew her uncle. "We served in the Navy together," he replied briefly. She asked for his name, but he ignored the question and focused on her leg to change the subject. Initially, it seemed she was healing, but this time when he checked her leg, he found it was infected. The problem was he couldn't take her to a hospital. He told her he would find a solution. He went straight to the garage, took his boat, and headed to the nearest town. It was a small town, but had everything he needed. He moved with extreme caution, avoiding any cameras. He entered a supermarket, got the medicine he needed, and then went to a clothing store to buy her some things to wear. As he was leaving, he accidentally walked past some girls who were filming a live stream. As soon as his face appeared briefly on camera, an alarm went off at MI6 headquarters, British Secret Intelligence Service. Mason was at the top of their most wanted list. They identified him and sent a tactical team immediately. Mason was already back on the island. He treated the girl's leg and gave her the new clothes. That night, he cooked dinner and they sat eating, talking, and laughing. They had become like a father and daughter. Everything was going well, but suddenly the dog started barking. Mason grabbed his binoculars and saw a tactical boat approaching the island. He easily recognized them. He put on his jacket and hat, pulled out his knife, and told Jessie to hide in the bathroom until he came for her. He ran outside. The rapid response team had orders to terminate on sight, but Mason had already prepared. As one of them stepped into a trap, Mason cut a rope, releasing a net that trapped the soldier, while a heavy stone pulled him into the sea. The others didn't understand what happened. Silence fell. They saw him running and opened fire. Mason knew the terrain perfectly. Every time they turned a corner, he was there. He hit one with a gasoline bottle and set him on fire, and pushed another off a cliff. One soldier broke into the house. The dog attacked him, but the soldier shot and killed the dog. He began searching the house until he reached the bathroom. He opened the door and found Jessie hiding. He signaled his teammates and ran back out. Back to Mason. He had left a surprise for him. One soldier found his comrade hanging and was shocked. While he was distracted, Mason emerged and hit him with a boat oar, then finished him off. Hearing Jessie scream, Mason grabbed a weapon and ran. He saw a soldier running with her. Mason shot him in the leg, and as the soldier tried to stand, Mason shot him in the head. Jessie was terrified, seeing the man dead next to her. Mason calmed her down. He noticed a camera on the dead soldier's chest filming everything. He flipped the body over so the camera couldn't see them. Jessie asked, "Who are these people?" Mason told her to wait until they were home. He went to check on the dog and found him dead. The dog had been his only friend and companion all this time. Deeply saddened, he called a contact and said, "I'm crossing the border with cargo." He took Jessie to the boat and they fled. At MI6 headquarters, they were shocked by what he did to their men. But the real shock came when they viewed the camera footage from the soldier's chest. They discovered he wasn't the person they thought he was. They had sent the team to catch a man named Shomaya, but this man looked nothing like him. After what he did to their agents, they decided to hunt him down regardless. They activated an agent named Workman to find him and put the rapid response units on standby. By morning, Mason and Jessie were at a harbor. He took her to a residential area and told her to wait. He scouted the area and, when he returned, gave her a gun, telling her, if anyone tries to attack, shoot. He entered a house, searching. Suddenly, a farmer pointed a shotgun at him. The farmer was ready to kill, but Jessie burst in and pointed her gun at the farmer. Seeing he was outmatched, the farmer surrendered. At MI6, they discovered that someone had hacked their system. When the cameras spotted Mason, the system displayed the identity of Chamaya. They discovered the hack had been inserted years ago by someone connected to Mason. Now they know Mason's real identity. His real name was Michael Mason, a former MI6 agent who was reported dead 10 years ago. They tried to access his old mission files, but found they had been erased. Just then, Manfort, the director of MI6, returned to his office. He was shocked. He realized the system was now showing Mason's real identity. Focus on that, because what it reveals will change everything. His reaction made it clear he had a dark history with him. Fearing the truth would come out, he secretly messaged Workman. Workman was on his way to Mason's last known location. Manfort's message was simple: eliminate the target and the girl, no witnesses. Mason was still at the farmer's house. Just as they were about to leave, the police surrounded them. Mason realized the farmer's young son had called them. The farmer opened the door to run to the police, but Workman arrived and shot him in the head. Workman then began opening fire on everyone, the police and Mason. Mason saw the bullets flying, headed for the back door, took out the police officers blocking him, grabbed car keys, and escaped with the girl. MI6 headquarters tried to contact Workman, but he ignored them. He wasn't going to let them escape so easily. He loaded his weapons and gave chase. A high-speed pursuit began. Workman tried to ram Mason off the road and opened fire. Mason dodged several times, but Workman kept coming. Mason slammed on the brakes, letting Workman pass, then became the pursuer. He rammed Workman's car once, twice, 3 times, until Workman's car flew into the air and crashed. Mason kept pushing the car until he was sure it wouldn't start again, then sped away. They arrived at a lumber mill to find another car. Meanwhile, Roberta, an MI6 agent tasked with the hunt, went to Manfort's house. He explained that years ago, Mason was their best agent. He was the most successful until he was ordered to assassinate a foreign intelligence officer. Mason disappeared and erased all his files. Manfort claimed Mason knew too much and had to be killed. Roberta wasn't convinced. Dug into the old files of Mason's unit and discovered the truth. Years ago, Mason was assigned to protect an Iranian scientist working on a nuclear invention. Mason spent a long time with him, and the scientist helped them get the info they wanted. To cover their tracks, Manfort ordered Mason to kill the scientist. But Mason, seeing the man was innocent, refused. While Roberta was reading this, Manfort was watching her through a hidden camera in her office, furious that she was disobeying orders. Mason and Jesse reached a town. A camera spotted them. Manfort, wanting them dead, deleted the footage so no one else could track them and sent the location only to Workman. Mason and Jesse entered a church where his friend Jack was waiting. They went to Jack's house. Mason asked Jesse to get something from the kitchen so he could talk to Jack. He needed a safe place for the girl. We learned that Jack was the one who helped Mason disappear 10 years ago by hacking MI6. Jack explained how they found him. Mason's fake identity was tied to an unimportant oil company worker. But someone at MI6, Manfort, had recently gone into the system and added level 1 most wanted criminal to that specific identity. That's why the cameras flagged him. Mason's only priority now was Jesse's safety. He asked Jack to keep her, but Jack refused. Jesse walked in and said he has cancer. Mason was shocked. She knew because he was taking the same medication her mother took before she died. Jack confessed he didn't have long to live, which is why he couldn't take her. Mason thought of another solution, a smuggler named Kamal. Jack warned him that Kamal was dangerous, but Mason had no choice. As they were leaving, they heard someone breaking in. It was Workman. Mason pushed a shelf onto Workman, and a brutal fight broke out. They were evenly matched. Workman pulled a knife. Mason grabbed a piece of wood. They traded blows. Jesse saw a gun on the floor and grabbed it. Workman grabbed a metal bar and was about to hit Mason, but Jesse fired a shot into the air to stop him. Workman tried to lunge at her to take the gun, but Mason grabbed a nail gun and fired several nails into Workman's chest. They escaped to the car where Jack was waiting and drove off. Manfort sent more teams to help Workman. Mason reached a safe house and stole another car to head to London. Jesse didn't want him to leave her, but Mason knew he couldn't protect her while fighting MI6. They reached Kamal's hideout. Kamal was a gambler and smuggler who Mason used to help or look the other way for back when he was an agent. Kamal agreed to help smuggle the girl to Spain, but in exchange he wanted Mason to kill Manfort. Two teams arrived at the club, one sent by Manfort to kill them and one by Roberta to bring them in alive. Mason realized he couldn't escape without a fight. He took out the first few men with his bare hands. He used a broken glass on one and his fists on others. More of Manfort's men arrived and they managed to grab Jessie and threw her into a black van. Mason called Jack to hack the city cameras and track the van. A high-speed chase through London ensued. Mason took out the guards and rescued Jessie. At the docks, Kamal's men were waiting with a boat. Mason tried to convince Jessie to get on. She was crying, refusing to leave him. Suddenly, a bullet hit near them. Mason pushed her onto the boat and stayed behind to hold off Workman. The final showdown, Mason versus Workman. They were out of bullets. It was a raw, physical fight. They threw each other into shipping crates.
Workman grabbed a metal pipe. Mason grabbed a heavy industrial chain. Mason delivered a devastating blow to the head, finally killing him. The night ended. In the morning, Manfort was at his home, looking out the window. He saw his guards dead. He knew his time was up. He heard a noise behind him and saw Mason. "You've grown quite handsome since we last met," Manfort remarked. Mason didn't say a word. He raised his gun and fired a bullet right between Manfort's eyes. 3 months later, Jessie is in Spain, living a quiet life. Roberta and her team are watching her, hoping she leads them to Mason. As Jessie sits at a cafe, a woman hands her a letter. Inside is a chess piece, the same one Mason used to play with. She looks around and smiles, knowing he is alive and watching over her. Mason is back in the shadows, and justice has been served. If you enjoyed this recap, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.